Hello everyone, welcome to the Salesforce Admin Interview Series, and we are at the part 2 of the interview questions. Today we'll be primarily talking about, what different aspects of users, what is the difference between deactivating a user and freezing a user, and we'll also be talking about different types of reports and when to use what. Then we'll be diving into the security side of things in Salesforce, how to control the security, what different aspects are there. And then in probably part 3, we will cover more of scenario based questions here. So let's kick off. So let's kick off with the very first question, which is what is difference between freezing a user and deactivating a user in Salesforce? So talking about deactivation of a user, deactivating a user in Salesforce means that the user has been deleted from the system. So it won't be deleted as such, as you cannot delete the user from the system, but it will no longer be able to log into the Salesforce. Records cannot be transferred, right, to that user anymore. So it has to be transferred from the previous ownership to the new ownership, and they cannot be part of any workflows or automation processes. So deactivating a user will also free up licenses for your organization, and then you can assign those licenses to some other users. Now, this is great, right? So you have license release, everything is released. And in case tomorrow you want to activate that user back, go again, give them the license and activate it out. But the other aspect is, suppose, you don't want somebody to log in, but they have a lot of dependency in the system. They have a lot of ownerships in the system. Some automations are running. So you want to kind of delay deactivating, but they have left your organization, or you don't want them to log in, right? But still wanting the ownership of the records with that user until you have a migration plan in progress, right? In process. So for that, we have something called as freezing a user. On a user, you'll see probably a button which says freeze, right? Now, freezing a user in Salesforce means that it basically stops the user from being able to log in. In some cases, you can't immediately deactivate a user, like I mentioned, right? You might have some custom hierarchy field, or maybe you have some email alerts going out, or some scheduled stuff, and things like that. So you can freeze your user accounts in that case, and then once all the dependencies have been cleaned up, you can deactivate the user. So this is one of the very important questions, and also aspect from a consulting perspective for an admin, in this situation, what to do. So now moving on to the next very important topic, which is reports. So as an admin, I think you should be aware of different types of reporting, because in any organization using a CRM, reportings are must, and reports are something that every management needs in order to visualize their data set and identify the next steps towards their businesses. So with that, we have like 4 types of reports in Salesforce. Definitely Tableau is another analytics platform provided by Salesforce for other aspects of reporting, which are really on a higher level. But with basic reporting in Salesforce, we can have a lot of dashboards in place. So talking about tabular reports. Now, tabular reports is the simplest type of report available in Salesforce. They show your data in rows, right? And most effective when your goal is to basically export the data right into a spreadsheet, or and use it out. The next type of report is the matrix report. So matrix report is a kind of a slightly complicated version of the tabular reports, but you can see the different totals of your data set, and are very effective when you have a goal oriented approach, and you want to and you also have kind of huge data sets, so you can see some matrix and some sums of your data. Now, the third type of report is summary report. So summary report is, kind of the most commonly used report, I would say, and it is designed to show all the grouping of the data sets. And you can probably group based on different accounts, or maybe different categories, and see total, min, max, averages, and a lot of other stuff. So this is one of the most widely used reports. You can dive deeper into it. I am just explaining on a higher level. Then we have joint reports. So joint reports in Salesforce give you the ability to kind of create 2 separate reports and compare the individual data set. So it is basically joining 2 different reports of an object or different objects, and then concluding something based on some common different parameters, right? So this is also used, not too common, but yeah, it is again one of the important reports in Salesforce. If some of the reports do not cater or come, you probably cannot create some of the reports using these, then we have other tools like Tableau and other stuff which can be utilized. So in case in your interview somebody asks, if none of this is working, then what to do, right? You have two options. One is you can create a custom maybe lightning component and do that, but that is also not a recommended approach. You can go with the Tableau and have all the analytics there. Now, very important aspect of Salesforce is managing securities. So how to manage security in Salesforce and what are the different aspects of securities? Talking about securities, the first level of security is organization level security, wherein you keep the authorized users in place, you freeze or deactivated unauthorized users, you have password policies in place, nobody can hack your system, you have restricted login IPs, and you maybe if you want to be more secure, you can also specify locations and hours for logins. For example, you say, okay, only this is the IP range, for our employees, and all the devices related to our organization fall under this IP. So you can restrict that, and nobody outside that IP can log in. And you can also specify that, okay, somebody who has work timings from say 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Can only log in between 9 to 5 and cannot log in after that. So these are some parameters you can use. Do check out my video related to the organization level security for this particular aspect. Now the next level of security is object and field level security. So okay, so I'm now logged into the system. Organization level security is fine. I am authorized. I logged in. I have my secure password, login IP ranges, and everything. Now there are different aspects to different users, right? So I don't want a sales representative who is at the lower level of the hierarchy to view a data set for my sales manager, right? Because that can impact a lot of relationships in the organization, and the it can lead to a lot of other things, right? So I want a data privacy there. So from that perspective, maybe there are certain objects, fields which need to be visible to certain folks, might not be visible to certain other folks. For example, there's a appraisal object, right, which contains appraisal for all the employees. I don't want this appraisal object to be visible to any and everybody except for the senior leadership, right? In that case, we can control the object and also the field level accesses using profiles and other stuff, which we'll be talking about in the next slide. But I also have a detailed video on object and field level security, which you can go check out. Now, I have logged into the system. Object and field level security is all defined, all clear. The next step is record level security. So now, okay, I have access to this increment object, but I don't want the maybe even in the leadership, I don't want the VPs to have access to their own increment record, right? So that is like a record level security. So I only share those specific records of that object which need to be shared, and hide the other ones. So that is where record level security comes into play. We have different methodologies to control record level security, and we'll also have a discussion on those here shortly. Now moving on, talking about object and field level security, right? The question comes, how can we control this, right? So the interviewer can ask you, okay, you mentioned there are different aspects to security. Now, how can we control an object level and a field level security? So there are two things here. First is the profile and the permission sets. So profile basically is, in Salesforce, user profile decides which object and data they have access to. They may be thought of like as simple as profiles that control users and what they can see and what they can't see, and they have like different actions to perform. They can give create, read, edit, and delete access. You may choose the Salesforce profile, and you also decide which user you want to assign them to. That all is doable. So this is one of the key questions in when talking about a Salesforce security model. What is profile? Different ways of implementing object and field level securities. So just recap this and revise, right, where to use what. Now next is, what is a permission set? So permission set is a collection of settings and permissions that give users access to various tools and functionalities. Permission sets is kind of an extended access. So suppose, for example, I have 3 users, right, with the same profile. They all have read access on lead, for example. Now I want one user out of those to have edit access as well. What I do, either I create a new profile that for that single user, or I give him an additional access using a permission set. So I give the edit access on the permission set that extends the access for the profile, and I can assign this permission set to that particular user. So anybody having this permission set can now edit the lead. So that particular user can now edit the lead. Please keep in mind, we cannot reduce the access, right? So if on a profile I've already given an edit access, I cannot give somebody a read access using a permission set. So this is again another trick question which the interviewer might ask, that can we reduce the access using a permission set? So your answer is no. Now these were the two ways, which control object and field level securities. And now we can also talk about how to control record level security. Now, okay, we use profiles, we use permission sets, we're all sorted. We have controlled the object and fields. Now I have read access to the lead, or maybe read write access to the lead. Now I want to strict, users that, okay, you have access to the lead object, but you need to see only the certain records out of it. To do that, we have various aspects. We have organization by defaults. So when you go to the setup, search for sharing settings, you can define, if it is private. Private means only owners can see it. Then you have public read only. That means anybody in the organization can see it. And then you have public read write, that anybody in the organization having the object level access can read or edit it. Then you have role hierarchy. So role hierarchy is basically, defined. For example, we have a sales representative and they have a manager, then manager has a senior manager has a director, and then director has, say, a VP, right? So it respects the hierarchy, and your seniors can definitely see your data set and your ownerships. That is how this progress. And then we have sharing rules. Sharing rules are the next aspect, wherein you can share certain data or maybe certain object records based on certain criterias. For example, I say, okay, any lead where region, which is one of the fields on lead, is North America, I need to share with this set of users, or this user, or maybe a group. So that also I can do here. Then we have something called as manual sharing, wherein you can go on a specific record and share it with anybody in the organization. For example, I am owner of a lead. I need help from somebody, but they don't have access to my lead since it's a private model. OWD is private. So I go ahead and I share that manually, which is one of the amazing tools. And the main aspect of manual sharing is that, as soon as the ownership changes, the access is lost. This can also be another good question, that what are the pros and cons of manual sharing. So just, recap those. Now the question arises, what is a role, right? Lot of people have this question. You talked about role hierarchy. Now can you define a role? So a role in Salesforce defines a user's visibility access at a record level, right? And roles may be used to specify different types of access that people in your organization can have to the data, right? It is not on the object or field. It is primarily on the data set. So just keep this in mind, that profiles and roles are pretty different. The next follow-up question is, what is the difference between a role and a profile, right? So clearly you need to demarcate that roles are for record level access, profiles are for object and field level access. Roles are not mandatory for users, while profile is mandatory for user, and you cannot create a user without a profile. Then users kind of group similar functions, right? And uh, so I think I probably wrote it wrongly here. So it is grouping users with similar functions is profiles, and then hierarchy that splits users with more authority from those with less is the roles. So my miss, I think I should have corrected it. I wrongly typed that out. So the grouping of users with similar functions is profile, and then role is basically bifurcating and splitting the users based on their authority and hierarchy. So these are some differences. The primary difference is that one controls the record level sharing and the other controls the object and field level access. So just keep those in mind and you should be good to go. Thanks for watching this. And in next series, we'll be talking more towards the scenario based questions on, Salesforce securities and how to counter those, what can be different scenarios, how to tackle and move ahead with that. Thanks for joining.